This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us this week is Miss Victoria Ferrari from Synergy CT. How are you, ma'am?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Victoria was actually a recent not guest. You were a participant in one of our crosstalks with Melissa Dillman and Kirsten Nelson, so she has survived that, and she's joining us again.
Yes. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Also with us is our buddy Bill Brown from BD Communications and Ideas for AV, right?
Yeah, it's BD Brown Communications. I kind of left the Ideas for AV back for a little bit, but BD Brown Communications, and that's great.
Also with us is Nathan Smith from Go Rave Audio. How are you, sir?
I'm doing really well, Tim. Thanks for having me. This is my very first Google Hangout in my entire
Really? Your first one?
So I've seen a couple of the AV Week chats, and I hopefully can contribute some useful commentary for everybody, especially from the marketing and the consumer point of view, because that's really where I spend most of my time.
Well, yeah, I met Nathan actually long about through Twitter and Cedia. Actually, we did a video with Nathan at the Cedia Expo last year. Go Rave does some really cool, interesting things with home audio and home speaker systems. So, and they're out of is it Vancouver?
Close, Edmonton, Alberta.
Edmonton, Alberta. All right. I won't say anything about the Oilers if you weren't quite a fan.
There's no need to say anything.
Well, except for the fact that the Blues did clear the Central Division last night. That's also. All right. Last but not least, you know what? Every few years we get something. Last but not least, Andy Barris from Advent Systems. How are you, sir?
Excellent. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Okay. So first up, if you're watching this, I'm doing something different with my setup. So and I've told these folks as such. So if I'm looking in weird places, somebody send me a text or an email or something, and I'll figure it out. But I like screen sharing. We're throwing this in here. So the very first story is not really a story. It's more or less a, hey, you should go do this. Infocom is doing their t-shirt contest. So if you are artistically inclined or not, just if you want a bunch of free t-shirts and bragging rights, I guess, go to their website. We'll put a link on the show page as well. But you can design the Infocom 2015 t-shirt, which I think is kind of cool. So, but yeah, you have to get in by the 19th of April. So you can take that out. All right, first up, we've got a story from our buddies over at CE Pro Tools. The founder of Lutron passed away this week. He was 88. According to them, quote-unquote, Lutron Electronics founder Joel Spira leaves legacy of innovation in lighting controls, motorized energy management, and home automation. Bill, we'll start with you on this one. What's going to be the legacy? What's going to be the long-lasting piece that Mr. Spira is going to leave us?
I think, like any innovators, is just led the way. I mean, well respected. The little that I knew of him, it's just, I think that's what our industry needs, to spotlight more of people that kind of lead the way. And I think the most that I can remember is that he just really, I guess, loved the industry and wanted to make a contribution to it. And so I think that's, in a nutshell, anyone wants to be known for. But I think for us who have known him and had the opportunity to see what contribution he has made to our industry, we'll remember that.
Absolutely. Andy, from your standpoint, where do you think Joel lies in the pantheon, I guess, of the past few years? We've had a number of AV innovators pass away. So where does Joel lie in that span?
I think he lies right in the middle of that mix. We lost a very important person at Crestron, as we all know. And we're going to be seeing more and more of this, unfortunately. We're all getting older. I have a father who's 91 years old, so these kinds of stories do, make me sad. And, an innovator like himself led the way as far as the lighting and the control systems and, the energy efficiency. I really don't know what he did of late, to be perfectly frank. At his age, I assume his input was less and less over the years.
Yeah, one of the things I was talking with my buddy Matt Scott, who's a huge Lutron fan, and actually was in a couple of events with Mr. Sparrow. Compared it to George Feldstein a lot, where he worked a lot. He was very innovative, but I think that over the last few years, I think Andy's right. Kind of tailed himself out and had a decent succession plan. So, Victoria, from your standpoint, where do you think he lies? That was really poorly stated. Where do you think Mr. Sparrow is in the? Yeah, that was really, really badly done. Where do you think the founder of Lutron is in the span of AV?
Oh yeah, for sure he's up there, with some of the other legacies that have recently, passed on. What I thought was interesting, one of the quotes in the article was that, he had no idea where the company was going to go when he started it in his apartment. It was like, how can you, and that's how a lot of visionaries are. It's like they just have this awesome idea and it just blows up from there. So that was cool that he didn't realize it. He just had a passion about something and went for it. It also made me think, and when we lost the Crestron founder as well, it's like, who's going to be the legacy, 50 years from now? And I couldn't pinpoint anyone except, maybe you, Mr. Tim Albright. But
oh, good night. Do I pay you enough for that? Good, wow.
Oh, but yeah, it just kind of made me think, like, what's coming out now that's going to have that same kind of impact. And I couldn't pinpoint anything exactly, but I don't know, maybe some of the other guys have ideas.
Well, and Nathan, Victoria makes a good point from your standpoint, because Go Rave is relatively new, right? Your parent company isn't, and correct me on that if I'm wrong. It wouldn't be the first time today. So where are we going? I mean, where are the innovators? You guys are doing some interesting things when it comes to speakers. I mentioned that at the top. So is it home automation? Is it home speakers? Is it control? Is it transporting video over fiber or some other transport we haven't seen yet? Where do you think that, like Victoria mentioned, in 50 years, who is going to be the innovator?
It's tough to say. When a founder of a major company does pass away, I think from our standpoint as a manufacturer, it highlights the business story more than the product innovation. I mean, Lutron products are in probably the majority of the homes that we have in North America, but his business, his step-by-step process from I think late 50s through the 60s to the 70s, building products that were accessible and easy to use and easy to install. That's where mass adoption comes from. If Go Rave is going to learn anything from Lutron, it's giving the installer something that's easy to work with, that makes them money, giving the end user something that fits their lives and doesn't make them work hard to get a result that they love. So I think when companies do that, they're going to achieve mass adoption and success.
Is that the legacy then? Is making sure that what manufacturers, and we have one on, so let's ask him. Is that making sure that the integrators, it's easy for them. I'm not saying make it too easy, but there's a fine line there. We actually talked about that last week when it comes to making sure that the integrators understand what they're doing and they get support from the manufacturers. But making it easy enough for them to where it's profitable for them to put in, but also mass adoption from the end user, from the consumer standpoint.
Exactly. The more complex something is for the installer to sell means the more time it takes to train, the more time it takes to install. Therefore, it's more expensive for the end user, which lifts that product now from the mass adoption, everybody can afford it, up to the top 5 or the top 1%. When that happens, you cut your market size down to a very niche market where there's people with loads of cash available to afford the product that you're trying to install. So if it's difficult for the installer, it's also difficult for the end user because they have to pay more for the expertise to have that product installed or that system set up to do whatever it is they need to do. So with complexity comes cost.
Well, that's very true. All right. So next story here. I'll see if I can't screw this up completely. From our buddies over at CE Pro, Netflix TV series House of Cards puts an AMX in the White House. Literally. Now, here's the thing. We actually did a story on this originally when it was put in a couple years ago. In the actual war room in the White House, there is an AMX system. So, producers of House of Cards, which you have, if you haven't read House of Cards, or read, good Lord, if you haven't watched House of Cards, it's a political story. It's only available on Netflix. It's one of the more successful stories of online streaming productions. Stars Kevin Spacey. So when the producers of House of Cards was trying to emulate and recreate the White House, they went down so far as to put an AMX system in. So Andy, we're going to start with you on this. Product placement aside, and I don't know if Joanne Drulis had a hand, if they helped do that or whatever. I'm poking fun. Joanne Drulis is the VP of marketing for AMX. I don't know the ins and outs, or if they just said, you know what, we need an AMX system in here. But the question is this, Andy, how would companies like AMX or Extron or Aurora or whoever get their products in high-profile programs like this to raise their level and to make it a little bit more acceptable to customers?
Well, how they get it in initially, I would think, would be a local consultant who got that in there initially. But to me, the story has two different things. It's stating, it's product placement, like you said, but it's also authenticity. And the producers of House of Cards wanted to keep it as authentic as possible by having the older series Madero touchscreens in there. AMX wanted to put the new ones in there, and apparently they didn't do that. I don't know if it's something they offered to pay the producers and they declined. I don't know. I'm speculating on that, so I shouldn't even say it. But there's a couple different things going on here. But I think it all boils down to the beginning, where a consultant possibly just specified AMX, or maybe they were in the Pentagon or some other places at the time, and they grabbed a foothold in Washington, D.C. versus Crestron. I know AMX recently hired somebody from the D.C. area, maybe 6-8 months ago, and he was touring with, I believe AMX was doing something back then, and he gave a little talk about some of the rooms that he was in and the lack of security in there, as a matter of fact, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, I think it all boils down to whoever initially spec'd those and put them in.
Actually, Nathan, from your standpoint, let's bring you on this, because how would you, let's use you guys as an example, how would Go Rave maybe put it into, I don't know, Orange is the New Black. Let's use another Netflix show. Put Orange is the New, put Go Rave speakers into Orange is the New Black. How would you guys go about doing that?
I think, well, first let me say how awesome it is that the producers of House of Cards used AMX the right way to product placement, yes, but also authenticity. Great kudos for them. One of the worst pieces of product placement that I can think of is on the show Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a secret government agency, and they all drive Lexus SUVs. And I'm thinking, what semi-military organization is driving a Lexus SUV for anything? So that's terrible product placement, and I think it detracts from the show. But here we're using a clever piece of hardware that is actually used in the real situation, and so kudos for AMX. For us, we're an audio product that works based on your laptop or on your phone, where the device is the source. So probably difficult for us to get into Orange is the New Black, because the music that the people will be playing would just be in the soundtrack of the show. They wouldn't probably show a person pressing play on their Go Rave app and getting some music. But certainly the step one, I think, is to talk to the producers of the show and say, hey team, is there room this season for 2 shots of this audio product? And they say, yep, it's $100,000. We'd say, as a startup, we'd probably say, a little rich. We'd probably do a TV spot for $100K. But if they say, yeah, give us your product and 10 grand, well, okay, well, we'd probably talk.
Well, I was going to say, that's a good question, because you're looking at a TV spot. My impression in all the marketing stuff that I've read going through media grad school is product placement actually has a bigger adoption than traditional commercials, than traditional ads do, because people get to see it in real life, get to see a real use case scenario. Let's take the actual story. AMX could do a commercial, absolutely, not on Netflix, because that's not the model of Netflix, but they could put it on the Super Bowl, right? They could spend $3 million, but it doesn't show exactly what it is, right? Here you've got a 45-minute, hour-long program. Granted, they're not in the war room the entire time, but it's showing exactly how it's being done. Now, to your point, is it worth $100,000 to you to have it in there, or is it less than that? Take away the startup part of you guys. Is it worth? I mean, is it worth spending money on something like that?
I think yes. If we had the cash flow to support that expense, certainly. This House of Cards story is a coup for AMX. Beautiful piece. For us, we'd have to look at a situation where, yeah, it does show that real life usage of the product, people enjoying it, and certainly, if we weren't the startup and we had the money to look at that kind of option, in a heartbeat. Yeah, it's a wonderful way to communicate what the product does, how it behaves in your life, and how it affects your lifestyle.
Yeah. All right, Victoria, from your standpoint, what does this say about maybe some of the adoption or the normal use case for things like control systems? As somebody who runs a control company, programming company, I think it's exciting because it shows Americans and it shows people who are watching the show, hey, this stuff is cool and user friendly. But from your standpoint, when you walk into clients, is it something where you can point at and say, here's a real life sort of use case scenario?
For sure, yeah. I mean, I think it's good in a bunch of ways all around. It exposes the product and the concept of it, and you can even say, hey, did you see it on House of Cards, or when you show them a picture, they may say, oh, hey, I saw that on House of Cards. So for sure, it's definitely a conversation piece, and I think it subconsciously it's a subconscious thing too that gets across to the people watching the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Brown, not only are you a talented consultant AV guy, but you also help folks, wrap their brain around this and
right.
wrap their brain around how to use technology. Same question to you that I gave to Victoria. Is this something that you could use?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the number one thing first, it has to be a cool factor, because when end users see things like this on the TV show or on a movie, it's like, one, how it's working and can it work that way in my environment? And I think for manufacturers to really take advantage of this, and I don't know if AMX did, is something that I'm instituting in my business now, is what's called design thinking. And so not just saying, hey, I want my devices or my things just there, but how does it make sense to be in your show? How does it add to? How does, at the end of the day, people say, hey, I want a control system because not just the cool stuff that it can do, but what, how it makes me feel, or how it's moving along this story. And I think there's a lot of devices in Pro AV that really can kind of get beyond the equipment to really help people, I think, as was mentioned before, be a part of their lifestyle. And so the more, what I'm able to do in my consulting business is say, hey, let's look at the right technology for your organization, not just any technology. And so the more that we can see AMX control systems or displays or something really enhancing our lives, our telling a story or something, I think that's a way that we can really look for other ways to let that invisible thing that is Pro AV, because most of the times I would hear it's like, AV, what's that? It's like it's everywhere and it's nowhere at the same time. So the more that we're able to help not just producers but executives and leaders see that technology is really a part of your lifestyle and what's going on, I think we can go from there, and you'll probably see it in a lot more movies and television shows like this.
Okay, so help me out here. How do you get around, or how do you get to the question how AV makes you feel? Is this part of the Infocom's exceptional experience, or is it the frustration or lack of frustration factor? I've never heard how AV makes you feel as a phrase, so help me out on that one.
Well, technology, I mean, just the word, when you hear technology, it does something to you physically. It either adds, it scares most people, right? So, so the more that you can have them understand or acknowledge how you're feeling, and then you get a professional behind that to say, okay, I want to put the right technology in front of you, so there is an ease of use or an ease of understanding, or this control system takes away the fear of blacking out the screens or lights or anything, so it's just a one-touch feeling. So it is the more that we're not afraid to have that conversation, that how does technology or AV make you feel, will get you to the point that you have the right technology. And so we're designing the technology that really understands that. Some people like the nitty-gritty kind of ugly stuff, and other people like it to look pretty and kind of do all the other things that they want. So the more that you ask that question, and some AV guys don't want to ask, well, how does this projector make you feel? I don't really, it just works, and I'll tell you all the lumens and everything like that. But the feeling part of it gets into the usability of it and the effective use in your organization. And I think that is something that we can do more, and that's what I do as a consultant, really help people understand that they're utilizing the right technology for them.
Okay, no, that makes, I get you now. You're right.
So I like to comment on that, because that is interesting, and I've had clients tell me or make decisions based on feelings, and going back to the product placement, for the most part I feel that it could be good, it's good for our industry, but also at the same time it can backfire a little bit too, because people see these huge video walls with touch interactivity on CNN, and then they're like, hey, I want to put this in my conference room, and they have no idea that how much it costs and what it's really going to take, and how the anchors are trained on it, and they make it look real good and real easy on TV. So I mean, I've had conversations where there was one job in particular. It was a geologist, geophysicist room, and I pushed them to do projection, blended projection. It was a small room, but no, the guy wanted a video wall. He wanted a video wall, and I'm like, okay, all right, you want to spend the extra money on a video wall, you're going to have mullions in your, maps and data that you're looking at, but, they went with the video wall, and they love it, so So there you go.
Well, isn't that the bottom line, though? I mean, yes, we try to educate our customers and direct them in the right way, but at the end of the day, like Victoria was saying, if they've got an idea in their head and that's what they want, the bottom line is that at the end of the project, are they happy, right? And yes, we have to educate them and present to them all the pros and cons to what it is they think they want. But and sometimes they are right. That is what they really want. So good. Was it a geologist?
Not overwhelm them with all the technology.
Well, yeah, Andy's right. Yeah. Did you say it was a
Right,
geologist?
the customer is not always right, but they're always the customer, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they are. That's all I'm going to say about that. It's been a long week. Let's just say that. Okay. All right. From Mashable, IBM is getting serious about the Internet of Things to the tune of $3 billion with a B, in case I'm not enunciating that correctly. B with a billion dollars. They go into the first paragraph, quote unquote, if you're driving home from work and an unexpected storm is heading your way, consider how helpful it would be to get a digital notification pushed to your windshield so you can plan your route accordingly. Mr. Nathan, we're going to kick this off with you because you've got the GoRave app and you've got some Internet of Things happening anyway. Where are we at with AV and audio and video and control and the Internet of Things? Are these two separate avenues? Am I trying to make something out of that's not there, or are they really kind of closer than some people are comfortable with?
I think they are close. It's a choice of how embedded the end user needs to feel with all the gadgets they have around them, and another ingredient in that mix is how much money they have and how much time they have to learn all these things. There's not a great unifying force out there in the market today that's saying this is how Internet of Things works. Everybody's going to be on standard A, Zigbee or another protocol. So, in our opinion, yeah, we will be adding more network connectivity to our products because there is a groundswell of interest and demand, and people want to integrate our stuff with their stuff, and there's no way to do that. So, the standards as they evolve, it'll be in response to, I think, the feedback from the integrators, less so from the consumers. Consumers want a result. How much energy and learning and life input they're going to be willing to put into that result will vary. And I think the platform that delivers the result that most consumers want with the least life input, the least learning, the least cost, and the least hassle, they'll have the upper hand, and that platform will become dominant. So the simpler it is for the person to learn to use and adopt, that's the way to go. And we, GoRave as a manufacturer, certainly are holding that directive very, very high up in our design and our product plan, because as I mentioned earlier, with complexity comes cost. Not just cost for dollar cost for installation, but learning and training cost, and how much enjoyment I get out of something if it's difficult to use every time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I think is our take on IoT and the next 5 to 10 years as that evolves.
All right. Andy, from your standpoint and from your perspective, where do you think we are? Is IoT a separate thing, or are we in the AV space a little bit closer to IoT?
Well, they're interrelated, obviously. I think IoT it's in its infancy right now. It really is. Right now, we do have a few things out there, like refrigerators, all the household appliances, and now cars on the windshield. You do have those instrumentation on the windshield you can see. I'm kind of curious on IBM and what their direction is with this. Are they going to pursue a new technology? that will incorporate everything. Obviously, they're in it to make money.
Yeah.
How are they going to measure their ROI? Are they going to come up with some new groundbreaking technology or some new platform, for instance, that everybody will have to purchase and be on that same platform, and they'll clean up on that. What I'd like to see them do, honestly, is spend a little bit of money and come up with a new name besides Internet of Things. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know. I never liked it. There's got to be something better we can call this.
Well, and let's not forget that IBM is not the computer company of our grandparents, right? Our parents and our grandparents. And
Right, Big Blue.
IBM has turned into big data. They're doing lots and lots of research. I mean, this is not the computer manufacturer of the 1960s, 1970s. They're doing some pretty innovative things. Andy's right, probably right. They could spend part of that $3 billion coming up with a new name. So, Bill, where do you think we are with Internet of Things?
Well, I think we're right in the middle of it, or we should be right in the middle of it, because it's all about, I guess, the devices, the equipment that will run the Internet of Things, connecting. So how we actually engage with that, and the more that we embrace that, and as we talked about earlier, being the innovators to really look at creative ways to display the internet of stuff and connecting things. That's where I believe the AV professional is going, or the mindset should be going. I mean, I was at a conference recently, and they said by 2017, almost 50% of technology decisions are going to be out of the CIO's office. And so it's going to be in marketing, it's going to be a lot of other places. And so if we don't understand that there's a lot of people making technology decisions and AV decisions that are not out of the CIO's office, and we kind of are connected to everything and understand that there are devices that people want to be connected to, want to understand, we'll be left behind, and the IT professional will take the lead, and kind of, that's another conversation, but we'll kind of dissolve into that as AV professionals. So the more that we really, not the name, but embrace the concept of the Internet of Things, we are part of those things. And IBM are doing a lot of smart cities, internationally, that really are looking at, as you said, big data and how technology and everything connects together to really help us, I guess, live. And so, as I mentioned before, AV is everywhere and nowhere at the same time. So the more that we're a part of that conversation, the better we are.
Just out of curiosity, does that mean that our sales strategies for those people who are integrators and who are actively going after new accounts and trying to get folks to put in AV installations, does that mean that their point people are going to spread out and diversify, and no longer is it going to be the head of technology, or the head of AV, or the chief information officer, the chief technology officer? It's different people on down the chain. Is that what they're saying?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And because of the internet, to be quite frankly, that's a lot of dollars are going that way. Mm-hmm. And so the more that we understand that there's collective decisions happening in organizations, so it's not just one person, one department. We need to speak to and have, I guess, our voice, or we're at the table in a lot of different areas. How is this going to look from a marketing standpoint? How is this going to look from a training and development aspect? We really need to know, as integrators and manufacturers, here we go back again, the experience of what's going on in organizations.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree with that. I do see a trend in not only targeting the IT group anymore, but going after different departments, and different departments have their own budgets. What I see though now is that it's more a reactive thing for me. So say some HR manager wants to do interviews over video, so they're using Skype or something, or they're using something and they're not happy with it, so they reach out directly to us instead of going to their CIO or their IT company and saying, hey, I need this, or maybe they've tried and the guys have pushed them off or whatever. It's hard for me to wrap my brain around how do I go after those those sales, those other departments and companies when they may or may not have interest at this time.
Victoria, do they also they have their own budgets, but are they their own decision makers then at that point?
So in some companies, I've seen that, yes.
Very cool. So
We've seen a lot more opportunities from HR as well, and other departments, not just the IT department or facilities, but HR and even the higher level C-level people are reaching out to us. We're in a fortunate position here at Advent because we also have a security division, which is huge, and a voice data division. So we have a pool of customers and contacts within those customers we can work with. But yeah, you need to reach out. I agree with you, Victoria, on everyone in the company, because everyone has their own needs and what they see, their direction of their company to go.
okay, so let me understand this, and Andy, we'll keep it with you. So then, how do you figure that? I guess the best way to ask this is, how do you figure that out? How do you figure out that customer A is the type of customer we're talking about, but customer B is still everything's siloed, and you have one point person. How do you parse that out?
Well, it doesn't hurt to shoot an email or request a LinkedIn contact, or I mean, there's
Exactly.
yeah, you just try, and then if it goes somewhere, it does. Not. I mean, it's just part of your targeted. You can do. Like we have marketing that targets particular titles or whatever, and so we target a bunch of HR directors or whatever through some online campaign, and hey, if we get some hits that way.
Through networking efforts alone, just person to person, not necessarily with, at least not with us, with marketing campaigns, but just keeping the conversation open and meeting people, going to functions and events, and asking a lot of questions.
Right. I think another thing is your language, your language of solution and outcome driven, and so the more that they see you as the solution to not just one problem, but a number of problems. And I have come to terms with silos are good, but we have to speak to those silos, but encourage them to come out of those silos, because sometimes when they're so stuck in their silos, because of integration, you may do something that will hurt the whole organization or another silo. So the more that you change your language that speaks to solutions and outcomes, you'll get the attention of a lot of different departments. And so it's not just about the equipment, it's about solutions. So you may get a call saying, hey, I don't know if you're the right guy or the right person to do this, but you've handled a solution in our office or in our company, and let's take a look. And so I think that's a way. And I think the more that you do as much relationship building through LinkedIn and networking and just through the context that you have in an organization, and that you're seen as a solution versus just a one-horse pony, that, hey, I just handle this and don't call me for anything else, that's way that you can get access to different departments.
Yeah, good points from Andy and William and Victoria. There's a key question that we have our salespeople use, and it's, who else is involved in this decision? That's a question that we find can A, introduce you to new people, new decision makers, as well as save your deal. Because if you're talking to Karen in HR and she realizes that Rachel, who is in charge of production or accounting, they're doing something to address the same scenario or the same situation, and they're taking a different approach or they're asking different questions. If you never meet Rachel in production, your deal is at risk. So we better learn early on that Karen's not the only person who's making a decision here. It's also the second person. So yeah, a easy question to ask: who else is involved in this decision? If they say no, it's me, and they're firm about that, okay, you've got the decision maker. If they say, it could be, we should probably talk to my boss or probably talk to Karen or Rachel. Yeah, there's a big clue about the next step you're going to have to take with that deal.
That's a great question to ask.
Yeah, absolutely it is. All right, National Association of Broadcasters annual event in Las Vegas is next week. Our buddy Josh Frago from soundreason.org is heading out to attend the press conference with Chairman Wheeler. A bunch of new stuff is coming out. One of the things that's coming out next week from Hitachi that I want to touch on, and because it affects us as AV integrators, and that's the 4K. Comes from Commercial Integrator. Hitachi is showing the first, according to them, the first 4K broadcast camera to utilize original HD lenses. Now, for those of you who are not involved in the production of video, that's a big deal. This is the reason why. If you've ever purchased a camera with the lens, most likely a good portion of that purchase price was for the glass. If you've only purchased the body and then gone out to get the glass, you know what I'm talking about. A lot of times that glass, and by glass it's a name, another name for the lens, costs as much, if not more, than the body of the camera itself. One small little quick nitpicky on the CI staff: please stop using the term UHD TV 4K. Just saying, it's either 4K or it's UHD, not both. Just gonna say that. So
that should be a DUH.
It should be something other than what it said. 4K UA. Yeah, no how. Anyhow, look it up. Wikipedia. 4K is different than UHD TV. Okay, and then there's this stupid thing called that they call 5K, but that's a whole other story.
Right. People in our industry are confused. What do you think about the end users?
Good. They're not. The end users are confused. They go to Best Buy. They give them $2,000, and they take whatever the prettiest picture is. But that's just another thing. Well, I've gotten really involved.
Long week.
Yeah, long week. But no, here's the thing. One of the things I've been doing is I'm actually moderating a panel on 4K for Streaming Media East in May, and I've been doing a ton of research, talking to some really, really smart people, way smarter than I will ever be, and this is one of their biggest complaints. Streaming media is we'll be talking with content creators, producers, network engineers about what they really need. And you start getting into the math of this stuff, right? That's when UHD and 4K and 5K and 8K really does make a big difference. Because when you're talking about bandwidth and you're talking about the bandwidth needed, you need a whole heck of a lot more for 4K than you do UHD TV. Because the resolution is different, right? Because the resolution directly affects the amount of bandwidth you need. But that's, anyhow, I'm getting off on a tangent. Andy, where are we at with 4K and UHD and all this jazz when it comes, Hitachi and everybody else and their brother is doing a really good job of giving the content creators 4K tools. Some folks are doing a really good job with the displays. The transports are coming along. I hesitate to use the word limping along, but they're getting there, right? Yeah. So where are we at when it comes to 4K?
Well, if you're creating your own content like you would be with this Hitachi camera, fantastic. I think the transport system is better than limping along. I think it's there. I think the biggest issues right now would be with content protection. If I understand it correctly, DirecTV has launched a satellite in recent months specifically for 4K content. They have another one going up. Of course, you can download 4K content. HDCP, we all know and love that so much. The newest version apparently is 2.2. It has not been rolled out yet. Specifically designed and will be rolled out to protect 4K content. Many of the current chipsets will not support HDCP 2.2. I had a little discussion with Melissa Dillman on this. She seems to be really up on this topic. And unfortunately, I learned about HDCP 2.2 from some of my residential people. And I don't hear it being talked about in the commercial circles nearly as much. So maybe a month or so ago, I posted something on LinkedIn about it, got an overwhelming response from a lot of people, and everybody was in agreement with that. That residential is on this and commercial's not. So since it's not backwards compatible, requires a new chipset, I do see this as a problem with the early adopters who got on the 4K bandwagon. I had an interesting call from Crestron about 2 days after I posted that LinkedIn post. Wanted to know a little bit more of my thought on that and whether or not, well, I gotta be careful here.
That's all right.
Crestron indicated that they're well aware of the situation. They're sitting on the sidelines waiting to see how everything pans out, which is a legitimate response. Some of their equipment, and they talk about all their 4K compatibility or 4K compliancy. Some of it is compliant with 2.2 and some of it is not, from what I understand. But I couldn't get a handle on what was and what wasn't as far as model to model. So, the 4K resolution looks fantastic. We all know that. When's 8K going to be out too? That's another thing I hear all the time. The only 4K sets I've sold are to the medical industry too. I've yet to sell one to a corporate client. So,
well, sure. Eventually it'll become like HD, right? Where you can't find an SD monitor to save your life. So, speaking of Melissa actually will be on the panel that I'm moderating. So yeah, she's a great resource. Victoria, from your standpoint, where do we sit with 4K?
Well, I'm not a huge lover of 4K just yet.
Embrace it, Victoria.
I've seen it. Yes, it looks awesome. Okay, wow, it's so cool. But it's kind of annoying that the manufacturers are pushing it so much, and even to the point where Crestron is getting rid of some of their non-4K transmitter receivers and other parts and pieces and stuff. And it's like, you might as well just sell them 4K, but, and that's fine. I mean, the cost is almost the same for the infrastructure. But where my qualm, or whatever you want to say, with it is, I don't feel that everybody needs it. I don't feel that it has to be there just because it's available. I mean, 1080p on a 60-inch monitor looks awesome. And, for your normal corporate, small to medium conference room, why do they need 4K? I mean, and then the other thing is 8K is coming. So it's like where it is specialized, like in simulation or, immersive experiences, it's like, might as well wait, because by the time they figure it out, 8K is going to be around the corner. And so for me, I don't push 4K. I've only had like 1 or 2 clients ask me about it, and I'm like, you don't need it right now.
All right, that's a valid answer. Mr. Bill, where do you think we sit when it comes to 4K?
Well, this is hopefully I'm trying not to be a soapbox issue here for me. It's all how we bring it to the marketplace. it is all these bells and whistles, so loud, and there is, this all-in mentality, but at the same time have um, this toe in the water type of thing to figure out if people are going to accept it. And the more that we really kind of own that we are going to lead the way, or we're going to forward something, and that we are going to educate the end user, or the most beneficial early adopter of this new technology, meaning 4K, it's really noise. It gets in the way. It really has people, as you said before, will just say, I'll just go to Best Buy and get that, or I'll just, I'll throw my hands up in the air until these quote unquote professionals figure it out. And the more that we allow manufacturers to just, no better word, half-ass, put things out there and say this is the next big thing, and then leave consultants and integrators to kind of deal with the fallout of that, we're going to be here. So it's going to be 4K, 8K, it doesn't matter. Does it look good or doesn't it look good? Can I afford it or can I can't afford it. So the more that we really justify or embrace or celebrate the what's new, and really support the end users adopting it and utilizing it in their environment, we're just gonna get on this merry-go-round all over again for the next great thing.
Well, isn't that kind of how technology's moved? I mean, that's for good Lord, 1960s to late that, so 40 years, 30 years. We didn't have a great advancement in video technology and display technology. I mean, yeah, you had from the 1930s-ish to 1960s, it was black and white. It was standard definition. 1960s, you got color in a significant way. We spent from the 1960s into the late 90s in standard definition mode.
Right.
Then suddenly we had you had your 720, and then you had 1080i and 1080p over the last 10 or 15 years. So isn't this just an evolution of display technology? I'm not talking about 3D. 3D is still, to me, a gimmick. There are legitimate uses for it, absolutely. I won't get into those. But this is nothing more than a resolution evolution to me.
Well, I think because the high def, how it was introduced type of thing, it really didn't really catch on to the level to move from 720 to the 1080 to move forward. So people are still figuring out, hey, 1080 is good. Let me stay there, But as we know, technology is moving. There's a lot more advancements than we saw in the past. You are exactly right that people from the 30s to the 60s were like, okay, that's that's fine. It takes a long time. That time has shortened so much, but we haven't really stomached educating the end user and really helping them through the fast pace of technology to really say, this is useful, this is not useful, let's, you can move on with this, or you can just go on from there. And that is the biggest challenge that I think we have, to really get people to adopt and pay what needs to happen, so it can be integrated in their systems and in their organization.
All right, that's valid. I get that. All right, that is going to be the last word because we are all out of time. Andy Barris from Advent, thank you so much, sir.
Thanks much for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, how can people get a hold of you and/or Advent?
You can reach me at AndyB, ANDYB, at adventsystems.com. Or just hook me up on LinkedIn. You'll find me very easily right there. Or Twitter at Andy Barris.
Andy Barris, very good. All right. Nathan Smith from... That's right. Nathan Smith from Go Rave. Thank you, sir.
Hey, thanks very much. If anyone wants to get in touch, reach me at Twitter at GoRaveAudio, as well on LinkedIn. Nathan Smith. I work for 11 Electronics, which is the maker of Go Rave.
All right, very good. Also with us is Victoria Ferrari. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thanks for having me. If you guys want to look me up, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, Victoria0429, Google+. I have 317 followers on Twitter right now. Woo! So trying to get to 500 before InfoComm, so we'll see if that happens. But feel free, follow. I've been quiet on my Twitter feed lately. I've been busy, but hopefully I'll be shooting out some tantalizing tweets.
Make this
in
a
the near future.
Let's give your 500th follower some AV Nation stuff. Like we got some coffee mugs and some T-shirts and stuff from ISE, and yeah, let's do that. So whoever is Victoria's 500th follower will give you guys an AV Nation team package, I guess we'll call it that. A coffee mug and some T-shirts and stuff. So
that's great.
Get you some followers before. And Victoria's going to help us out at InfoComm as well. So. Mr. Bill Brown, thank you, sir.
Well, thank you. It is always a pleasure, and from the last time I was here, I just had so much technology issues.
Don't even bring it up. See,
but it's fine. I can be reached on Twitter at bdbrowncom with 2 M's. And I'm not anywhere near the 100, but let's do 300 before InfoComm, right?
Okay.
And we'll be good. And I'll keep some activity on my Twitter account. I'm on LinkedIn, William Bill Brown, on there, and Facebook and Google+. And ZeroGeekspeak.net is my blog.
All right, ZeroGeekspeak.net. My name is Tim Albright. If you really want to follow me, it's TD Albright. But more importantly for me and everybody here at AV Nation, go by the website if you would please. avnation.tv. avnation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others. AV Nation is not just one chucklehead from St. Louis. It's folks from all over the country, honestly, at this point, all over the world, involved in the AV industry. We just did another debate show, AV Crosstalk with Brock McGinnis and Leonard Susskind. We have a new EdTech coming down the pipeline. I mentioned our buddy Josh Ragos going to NAB next week. So yeah, lots of great people doing some really cool things, and they still let me host this on a weekly basis. So go by the website if you would please, avnation.tv. We'll have a sign up for the tweet up, which we'll be doing during InfoComm. It will be Thursday of InfoComm this year. If you want some more information on that, we also have a sign up for our newsletter on the front page of the website as well. So avnation.tv, avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. This has been AV Week.